My plan is to bleach the oak and then use a liming wax. So let's start at the beginning with this piece of wood here. This is a little bit of an experiment that I did. This is the same wood as my carving, and 1, 2, 3 strips I tried the bleaching, 1 pass, 2 pass, third pass of it, and across here I tried the liming wax. So I've done a bit of experimenting to see how that would work before I do it in the carving. That's quite important. So I've made my decision, and we're going to start with the bleach. It's a 2-part bleach. First of all, you add the one, you leave it for a while, then you add the second. They can't be mixed, so I generally pour a bit into a jar like this that's clearly marked, and I don't put it back in the bottle. So the other thing I've made that is quite useful is, let's put those out of the way, is this little piece of wood, some pins, so that when I've bleached it on both sides, I can place this on that little stand then, like that. That'll keep it from sitting on anything. So I've got my bench nicely covered in paper, and off we go. So this is part A. You put this on quite generously. And in fact, it makes the wood look darker. If you wanted to oil this or wax it, this is a sort of colour it would go, and that would be much more like the real thing. The original carving would be much more this colour. But I want to make this white, and so I'm going to do the bleaching. But oiling or waxing, which else you can see on the site, that will do very well for a finish on this carving. So make sure it all, see how much darker it's going. And it does give you an idea that this oak is a very dark, very reactive oak. It's very air dried and hard. Anyway, let's get this coat on here first. That's the first one done. See how much darker it is? That's quite normal. I'm now doing the 2 smaller pieces, and this is just a plastic bag because I've run out of gloves, and you really don't want to get this stuff on your hands, so I'm just making sure I don't. So when we've done this, I'm going to leave this for at least 10 minutes, more like 20, for that to really soak in, and then I'll be putting on the B part. You don't have to let the piece go dry, just wait 20 minutes. And then you put on part B, which again I've decanted into a little bottle, like so. And putting that all over. Now this is the one where the reaction happens, and it takes a little bit of time to do it. But this reaction, eventually the 2 together, will end up with something like this first pass there. That's not going to be light enough, so I will be putting a second one, which means A and B again, to make that even lighter. So I'm going to put this on, and then I'll wait till that all dries, and then later on I'm going to put a second coat of A and B. Here are my 3 clouds after the bleaching. They're looking good, but they are slightly sort of greeny browny hue. They're not fully bleached, and that's because the wood is quite dark. I think bleaching doesn't really work on very dark woods like oak. So what I'm going to do is add an extra layer of white through the liming wax. There's also a bit of residue that comes off, not to worry about that, but what we'll do to begin with is we'll get a brass brush like this and we'll brush the whole thing. So I'll just do this area here. And this does, first of all, it removes this residue, and so really you want to be wearing a dust mask. Removes the residue and it opens up the pores, because the wax we're going to use, and again I'll just do this little bit here to demonstrate. The wax we're going to use is liming wax. It's not like our normal beeswax where we soak the whole wood in the wax. What we're doing is really just filling in these pores. So you get a fairly stiff brush and you brush it in like this and make sure it goes into the pores like that. So I'll be going over the whole carving and coating it in this wax. So I've opened the pores, and then this will fill those pores in. So make sure it's really stippled in like that. And then you have to leave that for a few minutes, perhaps 3 minutes, something like that. So you must leave it, otherwise it all just comes off. And after 3 minutes is up, you get a clean cloth and you can just wipe the excess off. And what will happen is the wax will be in the pores and add an amount of whiteness to it, so that green hue should sort of go. So I've left the wax for 10 minutes and now I'm just wiping it off. You can see it remains in the creases. I think that's a nice effect, so I'll just leave a little bit there. But there's the look. So the wax is in, I can see here, it's in the little pores and everything, gives it this white sheen. What it takes is just to wipe off, and then we'll let it really go dry before burnishing it. I'm very pleased with how these have worked out. If you find as you're polishing the wax that little bits you've missed, then do give a second coat, it won't hurt. And when it's finally dry, completely dry, you can just give it a little burnish with another clean cloth. And then that will be it. You don't have to put any oil or other finisher on it because it is a wax. And I really like the shadows and the white, and it's a sort of interesting effect. Here's a little one. You can still see the grain of the wood going through, and I think that's really nice. So it's not just a plastic thing. There you go. So those are our Japanese clouds.